a real privilege to welcome our speaker, Harpa Christian-Dottir. And Harpa is a director of a vocational rehabilitation centre in a town in northwest Iceland. She studied occupational therapy in Denmark when she worked as an OT for 10 years. And moving back to Iceland in 2009, she established the Vocational Rehabilitation Centre in this small town in the fjord country in the northwest. As well as starting the centre, Harpa has completed a master's degree in health science. She was researching the health promoting properties of nature sites locally and the experiences of participants taking part in nature assisted activities. She promotes nature-based methods in the practice of the Vocational Rehabilitation Centre. And she's here today to tell us about the work of the centre in her presentation, and that's entitled Helping People Enjoy Mindfulness in Nature and Through Gardening Activities at the Vocational Rehabilitation Centre, Northwest Iceland. So I'll pass you over now to Harpa, who will share her screen and her presentation. Harpa.
Thank you. I will share my screen with you before I start. And
that's lovely. We can see that now.
It's good. Okay. Yeah, you got my whole presentation, so I got that ready too. But my name is Harpa Lind, and I want to start with thanking you for inviting me here. And it's a great honor for me to be here today with you. As I said in the presentation, I'm an occupational therapist and work here at the Vocational Rehabilitation Centre in a town named Ísafjörður. And I want to tell you a little bit about how I've implemented nature-based rehabilitation and nature-assisted interventions in my work at the center. To give you a little idea of my location, then you have a map of Iceland, and this is the Westfjords. It's the most northwestern part of Iceland, and up here we are 66 degrees north. Here, right between, and Ísafjörður is here, the red dot. And right between Bolungarvík here and Ísafjörður is a little valley called Hnífsdalur. And where I grew up, but I moved away 16 years old and lived some years in Reykjavik and then some years in Denmark, where I studied occupational therapy and worked for 9 years. And 2009, I moved back to Ísafjörður this time, here. And it's a beautiful small town, as you can see. And here I took on the task of establishing this vocational rehabilitation center that serves the area of about 7,000 people. And on the picture, you can see the location of the center here. And the center is called Starfsendurhæfing Vestfjarða, where Starfsendurhæfing, the upper word means vocational rehabilitation, and the lower just refers to the Westfjords. This is a non-profit institution that was founded in the beginning of municipalities, hospitals, unions, and education institutions in the area, and it was in September 2008. Similar vocational rehabilitation centers were established in other parts of Iceland the same year, and there are now 7 centers all around the country with similar praxis. We are funded by taxpayers' money, not directly from the state though, but from a fund named Virk that all employees have to pay a part of their salary to, and which rule is to fund vocational rehabilitation in the country. So here was in this beautiful town, and in the beginning I planned the rehabilitation in a traditional way, where almost all the work took place inside, in classrooms, interview rooms, and gyms, which right from the beginning I found very contradictory, living in this incredible nature. And in the back of my head, I always had this idea of making use of nature. And in the beginning, I made some experiments, as you can see on the slide. But I always felt I needed to get some more knowledge on how and what would be best way to do it. But as you can see on the picture, we are located in the middle of the town with almost no green areas in the immediate environment, except we have a little garden outside our center that we are working on doing as a green corner, if I can say so. And as I was reading, started reading a lot to gather some knowledge, and a lot of the research I read was about rehabilitation gardens and using forests and green spaces. But as you can see, we don't have a lot of forest and green spaces in Ísafjörður either, except small areas up here, and in there we also have some greenery, but we have a lot of beaches and shores. So actually it gets a little frustrating, as the idea I got from research was more like this. And this is Alnarp. It's a specially designed Alnarp rehabilitation garden. It's a specially designed garden. And I thought, how in the world could I do this? With the limited resources our small rehabilitation center had, and at our latitude, it would never be possible to create a proper rehabilitation garden. So I figured I had to find another way, and I was adopted if it was possible at all to do a nature-based rehabilitation here. But then around 2015, I started my master studies in health science at the University of Akureyri. And I did a lot of small projects about nature-based intervention. And my teacher in Akureyri approved that I could do my master's thesis on nature-based rehabilitation too. But since there was a very little knowledge in this field here in Iceland, I contacted Anna Maria Pálsdóttir, who is a researcher at the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, and got a permission to attend her course, Nature-Based Interventions, in Alnarp in the autumn 2017. And also Anna Maria accepted to be my supervisor on the master's research, which made it possible for me to do a research about that topic. But I'm not going to go into details about the research today, but I will talk about how our nature-based praxis has developed and how it is today. But the research gave me the foundation that we built our work on, so I want to see a few words about it. It was an action research where the goal was to develop a nature-based program and find out what program like that could include and where it could take place. So it was important for me. It was based on science, evidence-based. So I focused on those two questions: what to do and where to do it. And as an occupational therapist, I found it important to include activities. So during the research period, we tried many different activities. After each session, we asked people to fill out a questionnaire about how meaningful and psychologically rewarding they found the activity to be, the activity we had tried. And the nature-based intervention have developed into activity sessions and nature sessions. I will talk more about the activities later, but start with talking about the nature sessions. In the beginning, the question was, what kind of nature do we need for nature-based rehabilitation? Can we use whatever nature in rehabilitation, and what kind of nature do we have in our area? Do our nature have the same health promoting properties as Scandinavian and European forests, for example? And what about our shores, beaches? Can we use our small forests and the coastline, coast area for recreation? So I started looking around and ended up with those 7 nature sites. And the rehabilitation center is here. This is Ísafjörður, the town you saw a picture of before, and the center is here. And it became a part of my master's research to evaluate the health promoting or restorative properties of those 7 nature places. Those closest by are just 500 meters approximately away. It's the shore here and a little park in the town. And those that are furthest away is 15 kilometers away. There's also a coast area here and here. And then we had forests here and a forest here, and up little bit above up in the center. Yeah. For those interested in reading more about the evaluation, it's truly described in an article we wrote that named the restorative potential of Icelandic nature. And I think we're going to put a link on that on Trellis. My study was carried out in 2019, going out to each location once in each season, both to investigate whether there was a difference in experience between seasons and whether it was actually possible to facilitate nature sessions outside in the northwest of Iceland all year round. Going out to some of those places have since been and are still a part of our weekly schedule. And when we go out, the emphasis is placed on being, sensing and experience social quietness, and to get this connection to nature. We give us a really good time to just be out there and get this connection we are losing more and more. Even we that are living here are more and more doing that. And what we do out there is when we go out to the nature sites, the emphasis is on being, as I said, and to connect with the nature, and it's actually mindfulness, although we normally don't use that word for some reason, but it's what we're doing. But what we do is we go out there, we walk around a little bit, we observe, we perceive. We are by ourselves. We are by ourselves. Go out by ourselves, out of the group, and be mindful. the most important thing when we are going out like this is the safety. And then we're not just speaking of the physical safety, but also that people feel safe where we are. Like not only physically, but also just psychologically. We also encourage people to keep their phones in the pockets, and good clothing is essential, because it's nothing worse than being cold out there. And we have also bought some things to make it easier for people. We have bought a few coveralls to ensure that everybody can come with us, even though they don't have warm clothes. And we bought some spikes. When it's slippery, we can put those spikes on, and walking sticks. So we have bought some stuff that do it easier when weather and conditions are a little harsh. We always walk around, but the emphasis is not on motion. It's more mindful walking. Many of those places have a great view, both of the mountains. They're often on both sides, and also of the sea. Also, when going out during the winter time, we have to consider the safety, as I said. So shores are often the most secure places to walk. If it has been raining, snowing first and raining, then the paths can be slippery, but the sand is always dear sand, yeah. No ice or snow there. But snow doesn't always mean that slippery, but if the snow is newly fallen, and it gives a very special and calm atmosphere in the forest. All sounds are less noticeable when there is snow, as the snow muffles the surrounding sounds, and it creates like deep stillness. It's magic, like. And although the forest sites we visit have started out as a man-made forestry, it has over time found the characteristics of more wild nature. And despite their small size, it feels like being in a real forest when you're in there. We observe, pay attention to nature, we consider it, we look at details, look at animals we see seals and birds, and then we see signs of some other animals. Here we saw some prints. I think it has been, it was a fox, but weren't sure. We watch for first sign of arrival of a new season, which first sign of spring, April. And this is from picture from May. And the bits also has some details. You can look into both animal wildlife, when small animals in the sea, and the bits can be extensive, and a variety of patterns form in the sand when the wave recedes. We often see signs of powers of nature, fallen trees after big weathers, big stones that have moved in the shore, etc. And this picture is taken in one of the forests after a big storm in late September, and it was a lot of fallen trees like that. Standing or sitting watching the sea is very mesmerizing and grounding. And at the seaside, people also experience the inherent power of force of nature, both through the sounds and of waves and the wind by the sea. And it stimulates almost all of our senses. The smells from the sea and the sound perception of the sound of the soft sand, and we feel the wind and rain and cold in our skin. So it's very impressive, actually. And we are so lucky that most of those places are very unfrequented, and it's rare that we meet other people when we go out there. And we have also chosen the sites with that in mind. Also, people use many ditches and depressions in the landscape to disappear from the sights of others. And participants enjoy sitting in silence and listening to the sounds of the sea, which was generally considered soothing and calming, and is. Between the big rocks at the bottom of the breakwaters, it's somewhat sheltered from view from the road and from other people on the shore, and also from harsh weather and winds. And as you can see better there, people experience it as some kind of shelter and can disappear between those stones as a refuge. And connecting to nature, lying there alone in the grass gives both social quietness, stimulation of many senses, and a deep connection with nature. You can see someone is lying here. And it's actually a big step for people, for many of our participants, to lay down on the earth or on the snow or the sand, and it's a great experience for them to do that, and it gives so much in getting connection with nature. And now I want to go over to the activities and to the doing part. The nature-assisted activities take place both inside our center, outside in nature, and in our little garden area and greenhouse we have outside our center. And the activities we do gardening, both indoor and outdoor, foraging, picking berries, mushrooms, etc. And we play, and I think it's a very important part of our activities. And then we do leisure activities, go hiking and sometimes kayaking. What we learned to be important regarding people's experience of the activities is whether the activity takes place outside or inside, and whether it includes requirements for visible results and a requirement to complete a certain task within a given time frame. And that's also what my research has showed. And indoor horticulture tasks are perceived as more project-oriented, with a clear start and end, whereas tasks outside are perceived as more ongoing, without a feeling of completing tasks within a given time frame. People can always choose if and how much they do or participate. So people are also allowed to sit with us and chat or just be there. And we try always to focus more on the process and how much, but not how much we do or the results of it. And it's important part that people are allowed to quit without finishing. It's a very important for our perfectionists, because it's quite challenging to stop without finishing perfectly. So it's something we use a lot. The indoor gardening, we do that primarily in the winter time, and we have a lot of indoor plants. We take cuttings, make some new plants, we sow, and we do some experiments. Here we have cut in 4 pieces this plant. It's about 3 months ago, and it's still alive, and that too, but those 2 didn't make it. So it's and then we make I'll come to that. And late winter, spring, we also sow and cultivate vegetables that we move outdoors when it's safe, regarding frost. Those plants were sown inside, and instead of using plastic, we make small pots out of newspaper, as you can see. That's also part of the activities. And here we have just taken them all out to the greenhouse and planted them out in our outside bed. So it's not in the greenhouse, it's outside. Here on the left, you can see the same plants a couple of months later in the summer. You can see those here, and it's some of those pictures are not very impressive for Europeans and you in Scotland, but I have lived in Denmark, and it's much more challenging to grow vegetables here than it is there. So it's not common for people to have. It's a new for many of us, for our participants, to grow their own vegetables. And here we have a zucchini we sowed inside and then planted it out in our greenhouse. And some weeks later, and may not seem of much for you, but zucchini doesn't actually grow outside here in Iceland, and it's not common to grow it at all. So, and it gave some zucchinis in the end of the summer. Tomatoes here too, not common either. And people always find it very exciting and rewarding to watch the development from seed to plant and then even to fruit. And it's just pictures of some flowers. Other activity we have done just a couple of times though is kayaking. Not everyone wanted to try it, and for some it was a big challenge, but it was really rewarding and big some experience in many ways, at least for them that hadn't tried it before. And people went somewhat beyond their comfort zone trying this, but were very happy afterwards. The same can be said about the swimming in the sea, but more people than I expected wanted to go in the water that are somewhere around 12 degrees during the summer. We sled, and in a play activities like sledding, you forget everything about time and place, and every time it's incredibly fun to do it, and people are so happy afterwards. But it's a big barrier for them to go out sledding, because few of us do it as a grown-ups, but everybody is happy afterwards. And sometimes we create mandalas on the beach. It's also an incredible form of mindfulness and requiring observations of the environment and offering a connection to nature. We pick berries and seaweed, Iceland moss and mushrooms in the fall. The foraging creates a certain absorption and mindfulness, where people have to focus on the environment to find what they are looking for and take some time to find it. And to learn where to look, but all of a sudden people realize that they can see it all over the place. If it's berries or mushrooms, and all this the same, they look and look, and then all of a sudden they can see it all over the place. Then late November or early December, we go and get spruce and branches and cones. Pick that in the forests, and that ends up in this Christmas decorations, and we do before Christmas. And that's actually where I will end today. It's a very brief overview of how we have learned to use nature in our practice. And despite a little different and more harsh conditions than many other places. So just thank you for watching. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harpa. That's lovely. What fantastic, powerful descriptions of the sensory aspects of the outdoors and the importance of observation and lying down in nature. I thought that was very interesting, and the importance of play as well. That's lovely. I wonder if you could stop sharing. That's such a beautiful image. We have to stop sharing, and I'm going to hand over to Fiona, who's going to voice the questions that we have. Fiona.
Thank you, Harpa. That was fantastic. We all really enjoyed that. We have a few questions. You've got people thinking. So I'm just going to go through those, and then maybe people can keep me right if I've missed any. Jenny was asking, who attends the centre?
It's people attending that has need of occasional rehabilitation, and it's mixed. It's different ages, different. Yeah, it's like mixed group of people that have experienced some illness or health issues and need some rehabilitation too, and everybody is heading out to the labor market again. So they need the support to be able to go out there again.
Great, thank you. And then we have another question here from Victoria. Do you have regular sessions such as once a week or once a fortnight, or are they occasional or seasonal?
Yeah, it is. It's both actually. We have it as a part of a program. We have program every day, and we have nature sessions two times a week during the winter, and one inside session. The participant calls flower session, and one outside, and we try to go outside in all weathers. And during the summer we are more outside. Then we have a activity session in our garden area where our greenhouse is also, and go out in nature and then we go hiking too, and also those mindfulness sessions that I described before. So during winter it's two times a week, and during the summer it's 4 times a week we go out in the garden.
Great, thank you.
Summer program is actually outside now the most.
And Victoria also asks, don't you heat the greenhouse with geothermal heat, if that's possible? And do you think that would help?
It would help, but actually here up in the northwest we don't have the geothermal heat. Not some places, but not here in our town, unfortunately. So we haven't been, it's a cold greenhouse, but gives a lot of extra warmth during the summer, even though it's not heated. So it's from May to September we can use it.
Sure. I was going to ask you that about the length of the season. That's good to know. And we have a question from Sue. Do you ask participants to reflect on the session at the end to reinforce the experience?
I did that during the research. I asked people to give feedback and to fill out the forms we had to evaluate the experience, but we don't do it. We don't do it regularly every time. We are not doing that now.
Okay. Just a comment from Jane. I thought your veg production was fantastic, and I did too. I was really impressed, so you mustn't apologize for that. A question from Stan. Harpa, listening to your presentation, I can relate to so much of what you were saying, and yet I struggle to be able to simply define it or even give it a name. We all know, and we all think we know what hygge means. I think that's how you say it, or kuri in Scottish, thanks to the Danish language. Do we need another name, perhaps Icelandic, to express the connection we have and what we get back from being part of nature? Please make it pronounceable for English speakers. I'm not sure if that's the question.
What words did you say in English? It was.
He said hygge or hygge, the Danish word.
Hygge.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we have an English word for it, or need a new word for it.
I think he thinks we need a new word, and he wonders if it should be Icelandic, and he would like it to be easy to pronounce for English speakers.
It's a difficult question, actually. I have to think about that, I think.
Sure. And is there a word, Harpa, in Icelandic for mindfulness or connection with nature?
Yeah, it's náttúrutenging, it's called. Yeah, but not one word, but it's the same as nature connection, actually.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Okay, and a few more questions. Alice says, thanks for an amazing talk, Harpa. I'm also an occupational therapist, and I'm very inspired by your talk to involve nature in my interventions. How do you link the nature-based therapy to vocational rehabilitation?
As I said in the beginning, I use it as an add-on intervention. It's a part of the program. So we have also group sessions and education, health related education, and other things in our program, but it's like add-on to our program.
An add-on, yeah. Okay.
So it's and people can, it's not obligation for people, don't have to participate in a nature session. They can choose to do it, but they can choose not to do it if they don't see it beneficial for them, but most people do, actually. So it's that way I have combined it as a part of the program.
Thanks. And Jane asks, well, she says, I would have thought Icelandic people were in touch with nature generally due to the landscape. Is this not the case?
You have yes and no. many people are, and of course we are very close to nature, but my experience is that when people are in a difficult place, they like lose that what can I say, ability to see what is around them, and need this, and I think it depends on people's, not just people in rehabilitation, but generally I think it depends on people's state of mind and psychological state, how able you are to connect to nature, because if you're always in a rush, it don't give you the time to do it. And research also shows that it's not just that go outside. It's not the time you spend outside or out in nature that counts. But it's the connection you get. And if to get the connection, this connection, you have to give you time to stop up, to look around. And that is what I'm trying to guide my participants to do, to stop, to look at the small things, to look at the plants coming in spring, to look at the sea, to look at the animals, and to breathe, to stop and take a deep breath in the seashore and look at the view we saw just before. That gives you the connection. But if you're always in a rush, you just don't get that, no matter where you live or what nature you're surrounded by. So I think it's stressed people in Iceland as almost, I think, as much disconnected from nature if they don't give themselves time to do that.
Just like here, yeah. Sally asks, is there a need to justify your funding? Do you count how many people attend, for example, and how many achieve positive outcomes, and do you gather feedback, etc.? And there's a very connected question from Leda. Do you have any outcome measurement for the sessions? So those are about measuring and outcomes.
We don't have outcome measurements just for those sessions. We do evaluate people when they come in, and we do evaluation when they finish, but we have not had outcome measurements for those sessions, unless during the research they filled out a form before they went out regarding their mental state at that time, and that's also described in my article, the restorative potential of Icelandic nature. Then I described the measurements I did there. And afterwards, after the nature sessions, they filled the same form out again. So it was not outcome we were measuring, but changed in state of mind before and after. So I cannot see, so that's what we did in this year. We did the research, but now we're just measuring before and after rehabilitation. So we have not had the resources to evaluate specifically this, but we had done what we can by evaluating the places we go out to regarding restorative properties, and evaluate the meaningfulness of the activities we use. Then we try to do it as evidence-based as we can.
Thanks. Claire says, thank you, Harpa. I enjoyed hearing about your work. Very interesting. What percentage of people return to the job market after participating in your vocational rehab service?
It has been about 65% of people have been, no, 70% of people have been going either full-time work or part-time work.
That's high. That's impressive. Claire also says, I'm an occupational therapist in Scotland, in Dumfries and Galloway, which has coastline, lochs, forests, and green spaces. And we use mindfulness and being outdoors one-to-one with people with mental health conditions. As, like Harpa says, some people lose confidence being outdoors and need support to reconnect with outdoor environment and nature again. And Sue says, I agree. I ran a take notice walk today outside, and by guiding people to notice trees, plants, and wildlife, it made it a richer experience. And actually, I had a question way back at the beginning about that, which was, do you find people need prompts from you to notice things in nature, or does the environment and just making time to be outdoors nudge them into a more mindful, noticing state of mind?
I think it helps that I'm there to guide them, or somebody there to guide them, because in the beginning, many find it strange. What are we supposed to do when we come out there? And I say we just walk a little bit around, and then we maybe talk a little bit, and then I have cards with pictures of nature and some questions regarding nature we sometimes take with us, and people pick a card and read the question and answer it, and it gives a thought about nature and what people think about what counts for them regarding many questions around nature. So, but many of them think it's, and then we go by ourselves and take maybe 20-30 minutes by ourselves, and then encourage them to find a place they find comfortable and use their senses, look at the view, hear the sounds, and all those, use all those senses we have. But many of them are a little bit confused in the beginning, and it takes a couple of sessions to learn we don't have to do anything. The plan is just to enjoy nature and be there. But that is confusing for people in the beginning, and always want to do something.
Yeah.
But this being
all relate to that. Yeah. Doing versus being, it comes up a lot. Yeah. I have a question for you from Dr. Glenville Liebert, who has his hand up. So I'm just going to ask him to unmute himself and put his question directly to you. Would you like to unmute?
Okay.
There we go.
Sure. Good afternoon, Harpa, and thank you, Fiona, for this opportunity to be part of these seminars. And I'm happy to be learning. And I want to ask of Harpa, when you're planning these outdoor bonding with nature, do you have any specific guidelines or techniques for planning activities so that things become focused, or people just wander? And what I want to know, how do you guide the development of persons bonding with nature? What any special technique or strategy that you use just to give guidance for those of us who may want to start similar projects in the future? Thank you very much.
If I have special technique or
Yeah.
guidance? Yes. I didn't actually in the beginning, and it was what I used my research to find out. How can I do this? And the research I used to experiment and tried all those different activities, and regarding how I guide people, it's something I have just experimented with actually. Also, I'm an occupational therapist, so of course I've used my professional knowledge to do it, and I've written a lot of research, and so it has been a process for me too to learn actually.
And how do you document the progress of your clientele over time in terms of what they appreciate, the learning curves, etc.? Any special metrics that you use to monitor the effectiveness of these programs?
Yeah, I have some measurements I use as I said before, to evaluate outcome before, when people come in and after they have, and when they leave, before they leave. But I have not been able to evaluate just this part. It's
Okay.
yes, it's yet a little bit complicated because most of them are everybody is participating also in all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Okay, we'll be happy to learn some of your measurement assessment tools that you use. So at least I can try out and see how we can compare notes in the
But
future.
you could read the art. Yes, but the article, it says how I evaluate it. Yeah, it's not outcome. It's more about the nature places and state of mind, but not outcome.
So the article is in the chat. I posted the link at 17 minutes past 6 in the chat, if you can see that.
Okay,
It's
I look for it.
very early in the chat, just after the welcome message.
Okay, thank you very much. I will search for it and save it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Harpa.
Thank you.
And I want to just fit in another question. Another one has popped up in the chat here, and I don't want to lose it. Hi there, this is from Pamela. How do you adapt, Harpa, the sessions for people rehabilitating from physical illness, or teaching them to adapt to new ways of doing things, if it's a permanent state they're in? Walking or access to forests, for example, may not be suitable for all the participants. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. But 90% of or more of our participants are dealing with psychological issues. So some of them with both physical and psychological, but no, we have until now not had anybody difficulty with walking or stuff like that, or using wheelchair, for example. So we would have to rethink this if there came a participant with walking problems, I have to admit. But some of the places everybody can go, so that would be the solution, to go where everybody can be together.
Thank you,
But
Harpa.
it hasn't been necessary to do that because so big part of our participants are mobile.
Thank you. That's great. I think that's all the time we have for questions. So I'm going to hand you back over to Jenny, the producer.
Thank you very much, Fiona. And a very big thank you to Harpa for her inspiring presentation. Can we show our appreciation to Harpa, please? Clapping hands, or using your button there, to your reactions button, to give us a bit of a firework display. Thank you very much, everybody. That's lovely. Thanks very much. So
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you to all of you for joining us this evening, and thank you